Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Radical Mindfulness presentation. And we're going to allow people to jump on here. And maybe while we're waiting for people to come on, you can let me know what countries you're joining us from. You're in the chat area. You can join in the chat area. And then we'll get started here shortly. Oh, hello, Switzerland, US. Wonderful. Bonjour. Frankfurt, Switzerland, Portugal. Wow, wonderful. It's nice to be with you from all over the world. I'm in the Sacred Valley of the Incas in the Andes of Peru. This is where I'm joining you from my home and my retreat center. Hola, Bogota. And so I'm looking forward to spending a little bit of time with you, Italia, Italy. We'll just wait a few more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see here. See if we've got any more countries coming in. Hello from Portugal. All right, we're just going to wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Hola, Mexico. Again, like I said, I'm coming to you from the Sacred Valley of the Incas in Pisac, Peru, in the Andes of Peru, at my retreat center called Catalina. Hope maybe some of you can come and visit me here. I'm going to go ahead and get started so we have time for some Q&A toward the end. I was thinking about radical mindfulness. What does it mean, radical mindfulness? I know that many people know what mindfulness means. Hello, California. Mindfulness is the state of being present. We can mindfully eat. We can mindfully walk. We can do a lot of things mindfully. But mindfulness is not something you do. It's a way of life. It's how you see life. It's how you experience life. It's how you are one with life. And so radical mindfulness then becomes the actual practice of mindfulness. So I always give the example. I am, for many, many years before I moved here, was in Los Angeles, California. And many, many people in that part of the world meditate, go to yoga, martial arts. There's all Tai Chi. There's all kinds of ways that one can be mindful. But I've always said that like I said, mindfulness is not just something you do for 30 minutes, doing yoga or meditation. It's a way of life. And if you really want to know whether or not you're being radically mindful or just mindful, if you happen to be in a big city and you happen to get out on a freeway and someone cuts you off and your first reaction is hands flying or voice flying or yelling and screaming, then I would venture to say that you have no practice. Because the idea behind our practice of mindfulness, radical mindfulness, is to be able to hold ourselves in containment even when life gets crazy. And wow, don't we live in a very difficult world today? A very uncertain world, a world we don't control, yet we very much want to have an idea of how to manage ourselves through this time in our world. This is not just happening to people in California. It's happening to all of us all over the world, all over the world. So it's the first time in history that we've actually been in a crisis where the whole world was involved in it, that we've been in together. And so mindfulness becomes something that helps us stay centered. But I want to share a little bit about who I am and my story, a little bit about my book, Radical Mindfulness. And you can find that on my website or on Amazon, whatever you choose to do. Many years ago, I was in New York City on Fifth Avenue at a pretty posh restaurant. And this was in November, December timeframe, the winter. I was in a membership-only restaurant. And I remember as I'm sitting in this restaurant in front of these big, beautiful windows. I could see Fifth Avenue below New York City. I'm sitting there in my custom-made suits and custom-made shoes and drinking a $250 shot of cognac and a Cuban cigar. And I'm really full of myself, really thinking, I have made it. Life is good. And then as I stare through the glass, I could see my reflection. And that night was almost like a night out of a movie because it began to snow. And I'm talking about those big snowflakes that just come down. They're just beautiful. But I could see my reflection. And as I stared at my reflection a little bit more and more, I could see a tear coming down my face. I was startled by that, but I kept looking. And then I heard a voice. I don't know who the voice was, but it was a voice that said to me, what values did you sell to become who you are? What values did you sell? And to give you a little perspective, I mean, during that time, I was very successful. I was president of a C-suite organization in New York City that I managed from Los Angeles because that's where I lived. I flew back and forth. I was an advisor to the Department of White House personnel for President Obama. I was a very highly paid speaker on the circuit around the world. And life was good. But the truth was that the question was, what values did you sell to become who you are? And I know, because I've been in leadership all my life, that sometimes when you're a president or you're a chairman, sometimes when you're a leader of any organization, you have the tendency to look away when things you don't necessarily agree with them to keep your position or your job. I wasn't any different. I just sat there being challenged by what my values were, recognizing that maybe I had sold my values to become the person that I had become. I was so distraught about that I decided it was time to do something different. And that day, many years ago in New York City on a winter day, I decided to walk away from it all. I decided it was time for me to go and find out what it was that my life was about. I spent time in the monasteries of Nepal. I spent time with the shamans of the Amazon, the Pacos of the Andes, just trying to find out who I was and what the next step in my life was going to be about. And then one day, I got a phone call. And it was my sister that says, you need to come home. I knew what that meant because my mother had been sick for a couple of years. And I'm sure that she was nearing the end of her life. So I packed my things and I head over to Dallas, Texas to visit my mother. And as I sat there, I remember in my heart thinking, what a horrible son you were. You never were around. I was the kid out of 6 that said, no, I'm not sticking around here. I want to see the world. I want to experience the world. I want to see what it's about. And I did. But every time she said to me, Mijo, when are you coming home? I I said, never, mother. You have to share me with the world. And right then, when I saw her in that hospital bed, I regretted saying that. I regretted that I wasn't around. I regretted. And the little boy in me was losing his mother, and I didn't know what to do. And it was like, wow. So I told my brothers and sisters, why don't you guys go home and let me take care of mother tonight? And I don't know if you've ever been in a hospital, but the beds are not, I mean, the couches are not comfortable, and it's very cold in there. But I remember sitting there looking at my mother for a period of time. And then something changed as I was staring at her about 2 a.m. I could feel her liver failing in my own body. I could feel her struggle to breathe through her lungs in my own body. And then I looked at her again, and she was gone. It was just light. It was just light. And then I was like, what's happening? And then I looked at my hands, and I was just light. This light said to me, the light, many lifetimes ago, before we incarnated into this body, you made a promise. And it wasn't a promise of father and a mother and a son. It was a promise from two spirits from a different lifetime. And the promise you made was that you would be here when I needed you most. You are here. I release you from your contract. And I cried and I cried. I thought she passed away, but she didn't. But I was able to experience that moment because of what the monks had taught me in the Himalayas, what the shamans of the Amazon jungle had taught me, what the Pacos and the shamans of the Andes and the Amazon, and what they all had taught me was to be present. Stay present, stay present, stay present. That moment is where I came up with, I realized that that was a radical moment in my life, and that my entire life had been set up for that day. And I didn't fail the test because I was radically present, radically mindful to experience that with my mother. So I made her 3 promises, and this is where radical mindfulness comes in. The first promise was I was going to open a retreat center for her in her name. Today, I am sitting in Catalina. Catalina is in Pisac, Peru. That was my mother's name, and that is the name of this retreat center. The second thing I promised her was that I would write a book about this experience and about what happened from that day in New York City through her death and through my idea of coming to open a retreat center in Peru. And I did. That book is called Radical Mindfulness, international bestseller in 6 hours. And the last thing I promised her was, but because she had passed away due to her non-nutritious way of eating at the time, you know, I was quite overweight. So I said, I'm going to lose the weight. And I lost 50 pounds. And so I kept my 3 promises. But in order to be radically mindful, in order for us to really find our calmness and our centeredness in this world, in this crazy world we live in this uncertain world we live in this world that we have no control except being present, then I came up with some practices that I felt were important to look at first. And then after understanding the practices, get into the steps on a day in and day out basis, how you can stay. All my clients that I coach around the world use these steps to keep themselves, because they're really stupid simple. They're simple. There's nothing difficult about what I teach. I stick to simplicity. So what are the practices? One day I was in Ollantaytambo, Peru, many years ago, and I was up doing a ceremony with a shaman. And the funny thing about the shaman is that I always thought they had these incredible, difficult Kiro names, the Karo, you know, the indigenous people above in the mountains. And so I was expecting him to tell me some name that I couldn't pronounce. And I said, sir, what's your name? And he said, Freddie. I said, you can't be Freddie. You say Freddie, I think frog. And he says, no, my name is Freddie. I said, okay, Freddie. Freddie, I need to ask you something, because I saw him looking up with this gaze into the sky, and I said, what is the secret to life? What is the secret to life? And with a deep booming voice, and you can actually find this video on my YouTube channel, the day I actually filmed this whole conversation. It's a part of my book. He says, Daniel, primero tienes que conectarte con Dios. You must connect to essence first, is what I say. God, the universe, whatever you choose for it to be. You must connect to essence first. This is the first practice. These are the 5 practices that bring us to a place where we can be radically mindful more of the time than not. I said, okay, so he said, connect to essence first. Then he said, then connect to you. Connect to essence. Essence. What is essence? Essence could be the beautiful kiss of 2 lovers, the wind in your hair. There's so many things essence can be that comes to mind. And then he said, connect to you. And then after you do that, connect to others. Connect to essence, connect to you, connect to others. Now, in this big world of ours, there's been a movement over the last, I don't know how many years, that we want to get to a place of oneness. Oneness meaning that we're all connected in some form, and I don't disagree with that. But it's very difficult to connect with another if you're not connected to yourself. You cannot give what you do not have. And so what he was saying is that we got to connect to something bigger than ourselves, then connect to ourselves, and then connect to others. In other words, as many of you probably have taken a flight, they don't say when oxygen drops down, hand it to the person next to you. They say, take it, put it on, and then help the person next to you. Because we must be connected to ourselves, because it is impossible for us to connect to others if we do not connect and or love ourselves. Then we have something to give away. Then we can connect to others. And in this time of crisis in our world, it is even more important to connect to ourselves, to understand ourselves, especially since we've been given this great, great gift of being at home. Now, some of us will probably argue with that. But being home, to look in the mirror and to say, who am I? Who am I? The second practice is forgiveness. And when I talk about these practices, I really am talking about self-forgiveness. Being able to get to a place, people get so bent out of shape, worried about what happened yesterday and stressed out about what might happen tomorrow. And really the truth in the moment is that the ability to forgive yourself in the moment and forgive yourself for whatever. Oh, beating ourselves up doesn't serve us. What serves us is if you want to forgive others, then you must learn to forgive yourself first. And here's an interesting thing about forgiving others. Forgiving others, it's an outside action for an internal result. Many of us look at people unwilling to forgive them, drinking poison, hoping that someone else will drink poison, yet we're dying inside. Most of the time, the people that we need to forgive don't even remember what we need to forgive them about. Yet we spend all our lives with this stress and anxiety inside our bodies, which leads to disease. Forgiveness, finding a way to self-forgive yourself. Remember, it's just like the practice number 1. Connect to essence, connect to you, connect to others. Forgive you, forgive others. Knowing that this process, this practice will find you clear your essence, clear your conscious and subconscious mind so that you can be more present. The third thing, unconditional acceptance. Now, this is really big for us right now. We don't have to like what's happening in our world. We don't even have to understand what's happening in our world. But I think there's some level of acceptance that we must have in order for us to move forward. In order for us to see the lesson, in order for us to see what is possible in our lives, we must get to a place of unconditional acceptance about where we are, who we are, where we're headed. I can't go anywhere, or I am chained by the rocks of my past if I am unwilling to accept what is true in my life today. I don't have to like it, nor do I have to understand it. But in order to remove the veil, to see the lesson, to see where we're headed, we must find ourselves in unconditional acceptance. That's a tough one for a lot of people to swallow. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. In another 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to let you ask the questions that you may have. The next practice, which is practice number 4. So you have connecting to essence, connect to you, connect to others. Number 1. Number 2, practice forgiveness. Number 3, practice unconditional acceptance. And number 4 is celebrating life through gratitude and love. Even today, I was locked up here in my center. I didn't see anybody for 30 days. I couldn't leave. Here in Peru, we had one of the longest quarantines, 120 days. Martial law, military in the streets. You were allowed to go get groceries and come right back or go to jail. It was something I'd never experienced before. And it was a very difficult thing for me. But even through all that, I found myself looking for things I could be grateful for. I mean, I was still alive. I still had a beautiful retreat center I could walk. Most people had an apartment, they couldn't get out. I celebrated life every day because I realized that for a lot of people in the world, that was not true. And so I feel that it's a practice to find ourselves celebrating through gratitude and love, no matter what. I don't worry about something I don't control. If something happens, then I'll deal with it then. But for me to take a breath and for me to worry about something I can't control, it's a waste of time. That's radical mindfulness. What I'm talking about now is the practice of radical mindfulness. How do we get to a place where mindfulness become a way of life, not just something I do? Knowing that practicing radical mindfulness will lead to a happier life. And the last practice, and then we're going to get into the steps. The last practice is integration in all areas of your life. Now, once you learn to connect to essence, once you learn the practice of forgiveness, once you learn, and mastering is doing it over and over and over again, right? That's how someone you call a master, someone who's perfected through practice and wisdom. You call them a master. You can master celebrating life through gratitude and love, and then integrating. Today, I'm giving you a lot of information. It may be the first time you've heard it. It may not be the first time you've heard it. But I want to challenge you to integrate a small piece of it. It might be the practices that the steps I'm about to give you, because these are the things I give my clients. It might be the steps, but I want you to practice one thing when we get off this webinar for 30 days. You don't have to remember everything I'm saying. You don't have to understand or even agree with me. But find something here. Maybe it's forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, love, integration, connecting to essence, yourself, maybe self-forgiveness, self-love, whatever it is. Choose what that is for you and practice for 30 days. All right? So those are the 5 practices to being radically mindful. Now, here's my favorite part. This is what kept me sane for the 30 days I was alone. I was here on campus for 120 days. But I was able to stay focused on what's happening now. And imagine I had 26 groups scheduled to come in 2020 to Catalina, and only 2 showed up, and only 10 people showed up for the whole year. Oh, I had a reason to be stressed out. I had a reason to be freaked out. I had a reason to be out of control. But you know what? I didn't do that. I stayed radically mindful in the moment and only tackled what I could see in front of me. So let's talk about the 5 steps to being radically mindful. The first one is, in order to get radically mindful, we must use something to get us present. So meditation, you can use meditation to get you present. You can use yoga to get you present. You can use breathing. How many are actually breathing? Think about that. Let's just take a minute. Just take a deep breath. 3 deep breaths. Ready? Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. And then one more time. Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. Now think about it. How many of you were not breathing? Worried about what happened yesterday, stressed out about what might happen tomorrow, and yet the only place that you have power is in the now, right here. The only way to stay present is to be radically mindful. So yoga, breathing, aromas, essential oils. Anybody use essential oils? I have all kinds of essential oils. And smell is the strongest sense we have. So if we can find a fragrance, I use Palo Santo. Anybody know what Palo Santo is? Palo Santo is sacred wood. It grows in Ecuador and Peru. Why is it sacred? Because the Palo Santo has to be dead, the tree has to be dead for a minimum of 7 years before it gives off one fragrance. It's an amazing fragrance. It's an anti-inflammatory, antidepressant type of fragrance. I use it a lot. I use it for smudging. I use it for connecting. I use it for bringing me to get centered. Check it out. If you haven't used it, look it up, Palo Santo. What else? So we talked about aromas. We talked about Palo Santo. We talked about meditation. We talked about yoga. What you want to do is to anchor yourself, to create those new neurons in your brain that are firing off when they get that fragrance or they get that moment of stopping, so that it absolutely brings you back to breathing. Now, these are the questions, once you're there, that are so important, especially today in our current crisis around the world. Number 1, where are my thoughts right now? Now, remember, you've calmed yourself down, you're in meditation, you're in the present moment. Where are my thoughts right now? Are they in the future? Are they in the past? Are they in the now? Remember what I said a few minutes ago? You don't have any control in the past. It already happened. You don't have any control in the future. It hasn't happened yet. But in order to create a better future than you did in the past, you have to stay present enough to create that reality. It is in the now that I'm able to connect to what I call essence, Pachamama, Mother Nature, the mountains, the sky, God, whatever you choose. That it's only in the now, and that's why I ask those questions. Where are my thoughts right now? The second thing the second question, this is important. This is where we get to bring it all together in radical mindfulness. This is where we get to bring it all into the moment. Am I okay right now? Think about that. Am I okay right now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not even a minute from now, but right now, am I okay? Yeah, most of the time the answer is yes. Maybe in some cases not. Most of the time the answer is yes. Am I okay right now? Yeah. Then that should relieve a lot of the anxiety and stress that we're feeling about anything in the world. I'm not asking, are you going to be okay tomorrow? We don't know if we're going to make it to tomorrow. We have right now. I don't even know if I'm going to make it to tomorrow, and I'm okay with that. But what I do know is that in the moment, I can practice the practice of integration and the practice of celebrating life through gratitude and love right now, because right now I am okay. Am I okay right now? The other thing, the next question is, and here's another very important one. Are the thoughts I'm having currently real? And have they ever been real? So if we're projecting into the future that we might get fired at work, but it has not been true, then it's not true. We are projecting. I used to call myself a drama queen, because if it wasn't any drama, I'd create some. So I didn't know how to just be still. But if you're pushing into the anything that you're projecting into the future is the future. But the truth is, right now, if you ask yourself, have I been fired? Or am I, the question is, the thought is, I'm going to get fired. Am I going to get fired? And it has not, it has not shown up yet. Then it's not true. It's not present. It's not in the now. It's not real. It is a thought that we entertain over and over and over again, creating our own reality. If you don't want that reality, change what you're thinking. Our most dominant thought is always being brought into existence. Our most dominant thought is always being brought into existence. What is your most dominant thought? The true pandemic is fear, doubt, and disbelief. And the truth is that if we stay radically mindful, we can stay in the right here, right now, where we have the most power, the only power to create whatever it is that we want in our life. The whole time that I was, in a quarantine, we're still in the pandemic, the quarantine, I had to keep myself present because I couldn't think about not having people show up here. What would I do financially? I never had to worry about that. Stay present. Are the thoughts I'm currently having real? And have they ever been real? The next question that I would ask you to ask yourself is what I'm doing right now getting me closer or further from my desired outcome? Is what I'm doing right now getting me closer or further from my desired outcome? If the answer is no, change it. You want a better relationship, make a phone call. You want another client so that, if you're self-employed, then make a phone call. It is important to really, check in. If you're so internally driven that you're driving people on the outside away, but you really want deeper relationships, then this is not getting you where you want to go. Is what I'm doing right now getting me closer or further from my desired outcome? What is my desired outcome? To have more people come to Catalina. Well, then does it serve me to sit here and freak out? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I've got to do something. I got to create an email. I got to make a phone call. I got to whatever. It's different for all of us around the world. And then number 6, the last thing is act. Look, see, move. Look to see where you're at. See where you need to move and move. Move. That means you must do something to shift the energy in the state you're currently in. That's what that means. You must do something to shift the energy. If you're in fear, doubt, and disbelief, anxiety, and depression, then you must do something different to shift that energy. Jump up and down, dance, turn on some music, go outside, play with the dog, whatever it takes to shift the energy. And when we shift that energy, then we recognize that we were actually trapped in a bubble, worried about the past, worried about the future. Yet the only power we have is in the present moment. So I want to go through the practices again and the steps of being radically mindful. And then I think we'll be taking a few questions. There is a question here. I'm going to look at it right now. Sometimes we're surrounded by people who are very intense, yes, or have negative and stressful energy, yes. If we are open, we are permissible to this energy. How do you recommend we protect ourselves? That's a great question. The truth is, there are many people, many of us that probably think, here that person comes again, right? And as soon as they leave your presence, they feel good and you're like, right? The truth is, is that nobody can change or shift our energy without our permission. Sometimes if we're empathic or we're wanting to be, or codependent, or just needing approval, we allow ourselves to open the, let's just say if we had a force field, we allow that force field open, hoping that we're going to get a different result from that negative person that's always been negative. The truth is we already know that. It's up to us to decide to protect ourselves by not, it could be family members that are intense and that are negative and that, that affect us. But for me, whenever I was around a person like that, the only thing I knew how to do was to stay present. Another question you could ask yourself is that when you start feeling, if you're around a negative person or an intense person, and you start to feel that, you have to ask yourself a question. Is what I'm feeling right now theirs or mine? In this case, this question is theirs. Let it go. Walk away. And I know that sounds simple, but it is the only thing that we can do, is to protect ourselves by setting those boundaries so that, anytime you're around anybody that makes you feel icky, get away. If it's a loved one or a significant other, it's more challenging, but you chose the relationship. And maybe that's what you're here to learn, right? So let me go through these very quick, and then you can be writing in your questions and I'll answer them. I really appreciate you all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and have so many people from all over the world joining in today to learn a little bit about radical mindfulness, learn a little bit about my work. So the practices to being radically mindful. Practice connecting to essence, connect to you, connect to others. The practice of forgiveness. The practice of unconditional acceptance. The practice of celebrating life through gratitude and love. And the practice of integration in all areas of your life. Now, why do I say practice? Because practice makes perfect. And it's a practice, so we may never be perfect. Actually, you should never reach perfection. We should always be a piece of work. We should always be a molding piece of clay. But practice is how we get to wisdom and how we get clarity. Is that the more we practice, the more we see, the more our consciousness opens up, and the more we're able to receive the answers to the questions that we have for life. That's why I call it a practice. The practice to being radically mindful. The steps to being radically mindful. The first one was, again, first step was to get centered. Use meditation, yoga, breathing, aromas, whatever it is to anchor yourself back into the present moment. Now, the goal of radical mindfulness is not just to do this when you feel like it. The goal of being radical about mindfulness is that we do it more times than not, that we are more in that space, maybe 80% of the time, rather than just 10% of the time and 90% of the time letting ourselves just run away with each other. Second thing, where are my thoughts right now? Future, past, or present. Third thing, am I okay right now? That's a big one. Am I okay right now? Right now. Not tomorrow, not 30 minutes from now. That'll come soon enough. Not yesterday. Am I okay right now? The next one, are the thoughts I'm having, are the thoughts I'm currently having real? Have they ever been real? All I'm wanting to do is challenge yourself a little bit. Be more open. The next one, is what I'm doing right now getting me closer or further from my desired outcome? If you're frozen in fear, doubt, and disbelief, that's probably not happening. It's action, which is number 6, that creates something different. The act, which means we have to do something to shift the energy. We live in a difficult place. I keep saying that not because I want you to ingrain that in your head, because I recognize that. And yet, even in the midst of difficulty, we can find ourselves radically mindful and able to be less stressed out, have less anxiety, and appreciate and love life a lot more. So it looks like we have a couple of questions here. I'm going to take those. Let me see here. Yeah, negative. We have a question that says, Let me see. Do you have tips on how to stop negative thoughts? The only, you know what? I think that negative thoughts are normal. Negative thoughts that run away with ourselves is not normal. So what I would recommend, Fabian, is maybe, I don't know if you use essential oils. You need something to break the circuit. And when we use essential oils, again, Palo Santo, lavender, peppermint, whatever it is that you want to use, it creates a different pathway for our brain to fire off in, the neopeptides. And so it's very important that, that we have something to break that. And so I have negative thoughts, but I don't let them run away with me. I don't entertain them. A negative thought comes through my mind, and like a cloud in the sky, I just let it pass on by. I see the thought, I recognize the thought, and then I let it just go right on by. It takes practice, but it can be done. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Are you a graduate of USM? No, actually, I'm not, in Santa Monica. No, I know the school. I thought about going there to get a doctorate, but everything I've learned in life has been through the process of life. In my early teens, 17, I grew up in Texas before I came to California. And as a 17-year-old, I was a licensed Baptist minister. So I learned a lot from there, the school of thought. But I've been teaching and writing books for almost 30 years. I have 5 books out there, and I've studied with some great people, but thank you. Would love to attend the school, though. Maybe I should look back into it. Let's see here. I can't stop dreaming about my ex. It's frustrating me a lot because I am engaged with someone else now. How can I make my subconscious stop? Can meditation help? You know, I'm going to share something, and you may not like my answer. There's a couple things that you can do. But the first thing is that we don't think about somebody, or someone is not in our consciousness unless there's a part of us that still love that person. And so we have to resolve that first. There's a difference between being in love and loving the person. And the more that which you resist persists. So the harder you fight not to love this person, and the harder you, even though you're engaged with someone else and you moved on. So then the next step is for you to find forgiveness. That this is the practice of forgiveness, is finding that ground where you can let him or her go on their own journey. And obviously, there's some unresolved things underneath. Meditation can help get you centered. Meditation can help you get into the moment. So this is why I have the practices of unconditional acceptance and forgiveness. There's definitely something there that needs to be worked on. Meditation will help you get centered and help you get into the moment, because it is only in that moment that you silence your mind for just a minute that you'll get the answer you're asking me. Does that make any sense? I hope that works out for you. What meditations do I recommend? Wow. I just did a big interview in New York right before this class, and I said about meditation. A lot of people don't meditate because they think they have to sit still for an hour, sit still for 2 hours. You have to do yoga. Meditation is what works for you. And my recommendation is that you just start with breathing. That's a form of meditation, just like I showed you. And just breathe. That's it. That's meditation. How long? My book says Radical Mindfulness, How to Find Peace and Tranquility in Less Than 60 Seconds. Actually, you should be able to do it in 10, but it takes practice. And so I'm going to recommend that you just start with breathing and sitting. Find a place that you like. Find a place that makes you feel good, and just sit there and close your eyes. And every time your mind begins to wander, see that thought, negative or not, as a cloud in the sky, and as it goes by, let it go. That's meditation. Start there. Do I believe in vision boards? Yeah, of course. I've been doing vision boards all my life. Why? Because there needs to be a connection between the written word and the visual way that we project into the future. Let me clear something. Someone said, wait a minute, you just told not to. Dream of tomorrow, but walk in today. Dream of tomorrow, but walk in today. We can see where we want to go. Vision boards are beautiful because once you set the manifestation process, and that vision is ingrained with your I am statements, and it's connected to your conscious and subconscious mind, and it's connected to your emotions, and then you combine that with being radically mindful. It's a recipe for success. I've been using them all my life. So thank you for asking me that. Yeah, I obviously do believe in vision boards. And I used to have all kinds of vision boards, tons, years and years and years. But when I moved to Peru, I couldn't bring them. So I have my new ones here. So yes, I do believe in them, and they're very powerful. How do you set long-term goals while focusing on the present? Setting a long-term goal is not a bad thing. It's the obsession of the long-term goal that's the problem. You see, you set a goal like a vision board. It's the same thing. You're just doing it by vision. I'm setting this vision that I want have this by this certain date, or I'm writing it down in text, but I'm letting go of the expectation of the end result. My job is to set the expectation, to set the intention, and let go of the expectation of the end result. The how, when, and where is not up to me. That's how you set long-term goals. You set them with the intention that this is what I'm looking for. Yet the only way you're going to attain any long-term goal is to stay present, radically mindful in the moment, on a day in and day out basis, on a moment by moment basis, so you can create the action that's required to get there. Many times people set a long-term goal, and whether it's a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then they get there and they go, wow, what happened? You weren't present. You let life work you. Act on life, or life will act on you. You weren't in control. You weren't driving. So that's how you set those. All right, let's see here. Thanks a lot for this webinar. I think mindfulness and attention are both as important, or would you, and attention are both as important, or would you say that one is more important than the other? I think the combination, is very well. Mindfulness to connect with inner self, and attention to connect to the world around us. Would you agree? Attention versus mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present. I think attention is the what a word I'm looking for. Because I lived in Peru for a while now, I think in Spanish, and I get my mind jumbled. Is the goal. The attention is the goal after you become, it's the action after you become mindful. The attention you put on something. I agree that they're both equally powerful, but rather than attention, I would say intention. That once you become radically mindful, that the intention you set from the presence of now, it's like saying that the thoughts of the dreams of today is the reality of tomorrow. The thoughts of today are the reality of tomorrow. So setting the intention is at least what I would say next to mindfulness. Seems contradictory to long-term goals, but I like to trust in life, faith, purpose, and our path to reveal itself. What are your thoughts about it? Being mindful should help our path to be clear, shouldn't it? Yes, I agree. Yeah, long-term goals. I mean, even when I was managing $60 million for corporate America, or corporate, not just America, but corporate, corporations they have long-term goals, but if you notice, the reports are 90 days at a time. And I always thought that if a big corporation can only think 90 days out at a time and attain goals 90 days at a time, who are we to think any further than that? And the truth is that long-term goals are good, but I don't particularly do that, and only because I don't know how long I'm going to live. And I prefer to focus in the moment, though I do have aspirations and I do have vision boards and I do think forward, but like I said, I stay in today, I stay in the now. And I do agree with you that I do trust that whatever's supposed to unfold itself will unfold itself as it's supposed to unfold itself. So I I agree. I agree. And yet there are different types of people that think differently. And for some people, being more structured in long-term goals is just the way they think. It's the way part of their personality. So there's no wrong or right answer to any of these questions. There's just the answer you have that works for you. Because what I do for my life may not work for you, and that's okay. You just find what works for you. And whatever it is that works for you, work it. Work it. Do I know? Am I religious and do I need to be religious to practice mindfulness? No, I am not. I was as a 17-year-old. As I said, I was a licensed Baptist minister. My religion today is love. I don't even like using the word religion, but it's love. It's Pachamama. It's nature. I do a lot of ceremonies to Mother Nature. I don't. What's the word I'm looking for? Discount or disagree with anything. I really focus on what works for me without making anyone wrong or judging them. And so whatever works for you, work it. It's like I said a few minutes ago, whatever works for you, work it. And to practice mindfulness has nothing to do with religion. Mindfulness is just being present. It's about being in the now. And I think that if you wanted to be more religious or more powerful in whatever it is that you think, then being present is the only way to get there. Because the truth is that in the present now, in the right here, right now, is where the divine lives. It is where it can send you, he or she can send you messages. So no, you don't have to be religious to practice mindfulness. You just have to learn to stop. And then the answers to life's questions appear. They appear. Can you listen to music while meditating? Yeah, I do. I would go nuts. I'll be honest with you. You can't get me to go to a silent meditation retreat. I would go nuts. Not because I just would go nuts. So when I meditate, to help me get centered, I have music I play every morning. And because I have trained my brain to say it's meditation time, when the music comes on, I automatically shut everything out. Music's a great way to meditate. Yeah, I didn't bring that up, Fabian. I'm glad you brought it up because I need to add that to my notes. Music is a great way. Recently, I had the honor of going to a concert in the Andes. I mean, it was one of those silent concerts where everyone is using headphones and the band's playing, but there's no sound. Only if you have headphones on, you can listen. Oh my gosh, it was the most incredible out-of-body experience. Because I found myself being able to think through, feel messages, think through my life, and it was music that was just opening. Music is the opening of the heart, right? Opening of the mind and the heart. So yes, thank you for reminding me of that. That we do. Music is a great way. What is the best way to meditate? What is the best way to be radically mindful? What is the best way to be mindful? The way it works for you, whatever works for you, whatever works for you. And as long as you're true to you and you're able to find yourself more present than not, I promise you that your life will be different for doing it. If there's not any more questions, there's one more. What kind of music would you recommend to start meditating with? Music, I've never done it. For starting out, I have iTunes, Apple, and if you type in meditation, there's don't use music in the beginning with words, just music. Or if you like jazz, or if you whatever music you like. I don't know if rock and roll works, but maybe some crazy people can do it. I need some meditation music, or you can look up spa music and find something that speaks to your heart. I have a music that just opens my heart every time I hear it. So you want something that you're going to resonate with, not something that you're just picking with. So go through iTunes, Spotify, whatever you use, and pull up either meditation music, world music, or spa music. And this is all music without words. And just allow yourself to get lost in the notes, get lost in the music. And you'll find that before you know it, it's most songs, from 3 to 5 minutes. 3 minutes meditation and allowing yourself to get lost and stay present can be very beneficial. It could change your life. Wow, I can't believe our time is already run out. Anybody else before we go? All right, no open questions. All right, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do from here, but I'm done. Thank you. Peace and blessings. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful new year. And this year will be what we make it. Just remember that. It will be what we make it. And the best thing that could happen to us is that somehow we're all blessed and we make it to the end of the year and we can say, I already knew that was going to happen. Peace and blessings.